Hi, this is my fake bendy bone. Um, People have been talking about the Blender bendy bones, and I just wanted to show off a kind of um, bezier rig that I put together that works kind of like a bendy bone in lightwave. I've used it in several different animations. It's not exactly this version, but similar versions, more or less the same idea, and it works quite well. It's not as convenient as a bendy bone, of course, but I mean, what is? It is lightwave after all. So it's, yeah, it is what it is. But here's how it works. What you do is it's a bone chain. In this case, I've used joints. These blue ones are the actual joints that are governed by the curve or the spline, or controlled by the spline. Works pretty much like this. Each of these bones uses spline control and follows a spline called bezier spline, which I have in here. Bezier spline. You see there's a bunch of points in there. Yeah, so that's just spline control. That's super easy. All you've got to do is once you've set up your bezier spline, you just use spline control to attach it to bones. It works well. The spline itself, turn on these so you can see them, is just a bunch of nulls. I use 10. 10 is usually enough in my experience for this kind of stuff. I probably might even be able to make do with fewer, but 10 gives pretty good results. Each of these, what makes these form a spline is one thing, and that is a nodal motion. And the nodal motion looks like this. You input the 4 control points for the nodal motion. You can see here the 4 control points are, in this case, this one, wait, that's not the control point. Control point, control point, control point, and control point. And you can see here I've got, oh, that's not a control point. These are the 4 control points. And you can see basically I've just parented control point 1, 2, 3, and 4, and I've just parented control points 2 to control point 1 and control point 3 to control point 4. Parenting doesn't matter at all with the control points. It's world space that matters, and it's only the positions of the points that matter. That's actually not true. I use the rotation as well, but the scale doesn't matter. So yeah, you can see you can move and you can scale. You can set up the rig controls really however you like. That's not important. What is important is that you then tell the nodal motion nodes that you have the right inputs. So basically, you just need to select your 3 nulls that you're going to use as control points need to be plugged in to these 3 CP 1, 2, 3, 4 things. The number of nulls you're using, you should put in here. If I'm correct, yeah, you should have. This means there's 10 nulls because we start the count with 0, so it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 9. So yeah, so really it's the it's the last node. It's not the number of nodes. It's the last node starting. If 0 is your starting node, null, and then you plug in which null it is here. So in this case, this is a first null. You can see I've written 0. So you've got to go do that for every instance of nodal motion for each one. This is the actual thing that does everything. I don't need to go into that. That's yeah. That's really all there is to it. Oh yeah. I have set up this scene so that you can relatively easily use load from scene to bring in a new bendy bone or fake bendy bone. That's why there's X's. If you notice, there's X's at the beginning of everything, and the reason for that is you can then load items from scene. Let's load another one with the same. There's that's bendy bone. Come on. Yeah, and then you can just find the XX and replace it with something else. So copy in this case, just so that we know. You click that and you'll see all the XX will replace. The bones are all under a null, so you can rename that. So what you'd have to do then is, if you say had like 2 tentacles or something on a creature that you wanted to use bendy bones, now that you've imported the copy, you would then have to you'd position them where you'd wanted them, and then you would simply just take the bones from the copied bones, and you would just take them and throw them into the old one, and they're there, and it still works. Doesn't change anything. You can move those bones anywhere you want in the hierarchy. The only thing that's important, of course, is the actual chain itself. The first bone in the chain has to have a Z position of 0. The Z position here is 0, I think. It should actually be, yeah, it is 0, but the spline control then moves it. That's how spline control works, for those who don't know, that it takes the Z position of the bone and then uses that to place it on the spline. So you just need to make sure that that's 0, and it should work fine. Yeah, other spline control settings would be, of course, you want to use fit to spline. If you don't use fit to spline, the bones instead will decide how long the spline is. I guess you might want to do that for some reason, but for like a bendy bone style thing, fit to spline is what you want. Yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you're interested in this, I will try to share a link to the actual file, so that you can download it. Yeah, it's I find it super useful. Thanks.